Come on in. Come join me as I make this Trendy Tree chocolate bunny wreath. This was a kit that they were selling. Jeannie and Carrie put one together on a live, and I was fortunate to snag one of these kits, and I'm going to make it for you in my own way. What this kit comes with is this hot pink work wreath, this beautiful chocolate bunny, metal sign, these two rolls of mesh. One is a lime green breeze mesh. This is the newest mesh out there. I think this is new this year. It's a wonderful, easy mesh to use. And this beautiful window weave, or it's called a wide weave mesh. It's got yellows and pinks, the lime greens, white. This is really going to look great together. In addition to this, they gave us 4 ribbons. One is this pink and white polka dot, 2.5-inch ribbon. Another is this butterfly, monarch butterfly with daisies and pink flowers on it, also a 2.5-inch ribbon. Another ribbon, which is 1.5. It's an orange and white. I think they call this a race check. Pretty sure it's an orange and white race check. And then this yellow 7/8-inch ribbon. So all of this comes in the kit, and let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is prepare our sign. I've already started. I took off the label and I put in a pipe cleaner into the sawtooth holder that's up at the top. Then I'm going to quickly cut 2 holes in the other part of the sign with a hole punch. It's a jewel hole punch. And all it does is cut a very small hole, pierces it, big enough to fit a pipe cleaner. So I'm just putting it in the lower part of the bunny's toe, as well as his tail. Hopefully these will be hidden with some of the things I'm going to add to the wreath at the end of the design. So as you can see, they're very, very small holes. I'm going to take 2 pipe cleaners because with the mesh that we're going to use, the wreath is going to be very, very thick, and having a longer pipe cleaner to feed through the mesh and around the frame just makes it a little bit easier and quicker. So just feed it through the hole. And then I'm just going to twist it around the back. This is how I put on metal signs. Some people use cable tie mounts with super glue or DAP Rapid Fuse glue. I don't have the patience for that, and I also am not 100% convinced that that's going to work. So I would rather just put the sign on using this hole punch and the pipe cleaners. And then when I enhance the wreath at the end with little attachments and things like that, maybe it's flowers, or I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use for this wreath yet, but I just managed to hide the pipe cleaner. Just this little part that shows. And it gives me peace of mind knowing that it's not going to come off. Okay, so we've just twisted that last pipe cleaner on. I think 3 points of connection is going to be just perfect for this wreath. Okay, so let's set that aside. And now we're going to cut our mesh. Let me just clean up here real quick. All right, what I've decided to do for this wreath is both of these meshes are a little thin. Thin, not in, it's just the weight of it is somewhat thin, okay? Easy to see through. So what I've decided to do is I've given I'm going to cut both of these mesh together in 20 inch length. We have 18 ties on our work frame, and we need 18 sets of something. So sometimes I will put 30 inches on, cruffles on the bottom. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put, cut these both all at 20 inches. 18 times 20 is 360, which is the amount that we have on here. And then what I'll do is I'll ruffle them together so that you have both of the colors together in each tie. All right? So basically it's giving us 40 inches of mesh in each tie, but it's going to be in two different colors. So let's get started. I'm going to get my rotary cutter and start cutting. Let's get the wreath frame out of the way. I just line them up together, roll them out to 20 inches. Now, each of these rolls should have 360 inches of mesh on them, but sometimes they're a little light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut at 19 inches for some of the, I have to cut 18 cuts of this. So some of them are going to be cut at 20 inches and some are going to be cut at 19 inches, just in case we don't have the proper amount of mesh on each of these rolls. All right? Hope that makes sense. I'm just kind of erring on the side of caution. I don't want to get down to my last cut and find out that it only has 10 inches on it. All right, so let's get something to hold the mesh down as I cut. Just use this to weight it down. And again, I'm just cutting every other one. One is going to be 20 inches. The next one will be 19 inches. And that way they're all mixed together. We won't know. And it'll just work out just fine. So I'll just keep cutting until both rolls are completely cut. We should be able to get 18 out of this without having to count. Counting and talking are not easy for me. to do it simultaneously is what I meant. People have this cutting down to a science. I tend to struggle. I could probably benefit from one of those mesh holding apparatuses, or that just rolls off the mesh holder. But I find that my table space is always so limited. And the last thing I need to do is take it up with a mesh holder. And thankfully this process is almost over. show you how to put the mesh in the wreath. And then I'll turn off the camera. I'll do some of it on camera for you so that you get the idea. But it makes the tutorial go quicker if I do some of it off camera so you don't have to watch. And if you're making this along with me, if you were fortunate enough to get a wreath kit when they were airing them, it gives you time to complete the wreath, the mesh portion of the building the base, I should say. Gives you a chance to do it off camera. I mean, while I'm off camera, you can do it too. Now, this method you can use for any kind of mesh. I just find that this, when the two meshes together are thin like this, thin meaning see-through-ish, the more that you can put on each tie, the better. It blocks the wreath frame. And this also uses up both rolls, which is perfect. The last thing you want to do is have lots of little rolls sitting, you know, partial rolls in your space where you really can't make an entire wreath out of them. Okay. We're getting down there. Double check here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yep, we're almost there. I'll just finish up this last one. Let's see what we have left on the roll. See, we pretty much, by doing that 1 inch short, let's see how many we had, 13 inches. We have about 13 inches left on each roll. So that just worked out just perfect. All right, now let's put some of these back here. Get them out of the way so that we can put them on our wreath frame. I forgot that this open weave mesh is kind of a clinging mesh. So it's going to cling to your clothing. If it has the opportunity, it will grab on. Okay. Here we go. Now, I like to I start on the bottom rim and pull all the ties out. There are 10 ties on the bottom, and then there are 8 on the top for a total of 18. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is, let's see if I have my... I have a clip here. Okay, so remember I said we're going to use both of them together. Now I'm going to take and scrunch up the first one in a cruffle. And a cruffle is 2 curls and a ruffle in between. So it's a curl on one end. And we always try to curl in any end that's been cut. See, these are our cut ends, and those are the ends that will tend to fray. If there's any fraying going on, it's going to be on the cut edge. So by curling it under onto itself, we're kind of hiding that edge, minimizing its exposure, and minimizing the chances for fraying. There's no way to stop fraying completely, but we can minimize it. Okay. So what I realized is I talked right through how to do a cruffle. So let me do it on the next mesh. Now all I'm doing is just pinning this in for a minute while I complete the cruffle on this one. Now, spread it out so I can show you. You're going to bend the end under the cut end, curl it on top of itself, then run your finger right up the middle as you pleat the middle of the mesh here. Now when you get to this end, you're going to take and do a curl on this end as well. Just gently curl it under and then pinch it together. So now you have a bow tie shape. It's called a cruffle because it's 2 curls and a ruffle in between. All right, now I'm going to take these two, butt them up next to each other. Okay, and then I'm going to open one of these ties and put it in. And in this one, I'm putting the multicolor one on top. Give it a twist. Okay. Actually, what I'd rather do is put them next to each other this way. Not butting up to each other, but put them up to each other like that. Okay? So they're lying side by side. Then put them in. And what you'll have now, okay, you'll have the green on the bottom, the multicolor on top. Now, when we go to do the next one, we're going to reverse that. Okay, doesn't matter what order you cruffle them in. Let's do the cruffle again, show it to you. Okay, turn it on to itself, a couple of turns. Run your fingers up, gathering the mesh right up the middle. You get towards the end, just take that end, bend it in on top of itself. Okay, and there you have it, the cruffle. 2 curls and a ruffle in between. I'll just hold it there for our next, until we get our next one done. Do the same thing with this one. Turn it on itself a couple of times, right up the middle. Gather it up, and then take this end and turn it in. Just roll it up to that and then scrunch it together, okay? Now in this case, when we put them together, we're going to put them side by side like before, but the green is going to go in on the top. Okay? So you can see that we have like waves of the green is going to be up on the bottom, then to the top. Now in the next one, it's going to be back on the bottom. Okay, let's do the cruffle again. All right, and this part is you're just pinching the mesh and pulling it to your thumbs. Bring it back to your thumbs. And then when you get down towards the end, just turn it on top of itself and then pinch it together with a clip. Okay. Same thing for this one. We're going to roll it onto itself, pinch it together, pulling that mesh to your thumbs with your forefinger. And Mr. Tallman, then just roll this up. Now you have 2. In this case, we're going to put the multicolor one on top of the green. Hold both of them together, push them down into the mesh. Push the mesh down into the tie. That's what I meant to say. And you see how it's going to be a wave through the whole wreath. Okay, let me get another one. Okay, I'm going to roll this together and pull it with your fingers back towards your thumb. Keep walking your fingers up and roll this edge in and pin it together. Let's do the same thing with this. Okay. Walk it together, walk it to the other end. Then when you get close, turn this end in. We're just covering up the cut end into the curl. All right, and now this time we're putting the green on top. and pushing it into the, oops. There we go. Just twist, push down to compact it and twist. These are such pretty colors. When I saw them making this kit, I just knew I wanted to try to make it. I love the chocolate bunny. Looks delicious. And looks like a real chocolate bunny. Okay, and just lock it together. When you get to this end, just curl it. Start out with a tight little curl there, and these will open up. If the middle is tight, then the outside opens up. Okay, let's do this one. Okay, curl, scrunch it up the middle. Okay, when you get towards the end, just take and, this is what I mean by small, just take that little edge and turn it in on top of itself, and the wreath will, the other ends of the mesh will follow. Okay, and now the multicolor goes on top this time. So I just grab them together and push them into the wreath frame, and then give the ties a good tight twist. Okay, let me show you. Now I only have one clip here, but you can still do this. If you had 2 clips, this would be really easy. You're going to roll up this end like before, and let's just clip it. All right, now that end's already curled. We're just going to curl this end, walk it up as you scrunch. And there you go. You have one ruffle already made. Pretty easy. Now, if I had a second clip, I would do it the same way, but I don't. My supplies are in another location. So I'm going to go back to how I did it before, which is just put a curl on one end and then just scrunch it up the middle until you get close to that end, and then start with a small tight turn in the middle, and then the outside curls get bigger. Okay, now the green should go on the top, just like that. Okay, open up your tie, push it down, push that mesh all the way down to that wreath frame. Give it a good twist. There you go. Okay. Let's do this one first. Again, doesn't matter at all which one you do first. Okay, curl it up. Open the clip and grab the other end, and there you have your cruffle. Now let's do it with the green. You have to freehand the green because we only have one clip. Roll it. You get close to the end. Just start with a little curl, tight in the middle, and see how the ends are puffing up? And then just push them together. Okay, now the green goes on the bottom in this next one. Push them together. And right into that wreath frame. Don't these colors just scream Easter? It's just perfect. Okay, we have 3 more on the bottom. Okay. Curl it, pinch, and then we'll just scrunch this end together. And get down here, just open the clip and put it on there. Let's do that same. Let's freehand this one. the green goes on the top in this next tie. Push it down all the way. Give it a good twist. Oh, that was wrong. Just flip it over. The green should go on the top. Caught myself before I got too far along. There we go. That's how it should be. Much better. Okay, now I'm going to do the last two and the top row. We're going to use the same exact method on the top row, but I'm going to finish this off camera just to save us a little time. I'll come right back when I've got it finished. Okay, I have two left, and I thought that I would just quickly review how we're doing this and give you some pointers on how to put it on the top row. Okay, so we're just making two cruffles, and then we are going to put the two together. Okay, there's one, and then here's the other. Just curl it on itself, scrunch it up the middle, and then turn this edge under. Just keep rolling it, and it will form the curls on the end. Now, if I continue my pattern, the multicolor should be on the top. And what I'm doing when I'm putting this in is I'm making sure that all, like the bottom layer is down, and then this side layer abuts up to this one, and then push this mesh all the way down to the wire and twist. Then just bring it all forward. Okay, now this last piece is a little tricky, only because we got to move the mesh this way and down at the same time. So let's open our tie, and let's roll our last two cruffles. Okay, I'm going to start with the green. I'll use the clip method. Clip the end together after I roll it. Then turn it to this side. Just roll this edge a little bit and then ruffle up the middle. And join the two ends together in the clip. There we go. While we finish our last one, let's roll it up and ruffle it up the middle. And then we get to this edge, we're just going to turn it onto itself and then bring it together. Now, this one, the multicolor should be on the bottom of our stack. Okay, now we have to get this mesh over, and this mesh down. All right, and there we go. All done. Let's perk this up a little bit. Make sure these are butting up next to each other and not overlapping. And there we have our mesh base. Now I did notice that we do have just a slight fray. It's in the inside of this, so I'm just going to cut it. There we go. Don't ever pull a fray. Certainly cut it and you'll be fine. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare our ribbon tails. Set this aside, put all the things away that we don't need. But that sure does make a beautiful base, doesn't it? Okay, so what I've decided to do, the ribbons that come with the kit are these. All right, we have polka dot orange and yellow. All right, and then I thought I was going to add, I'm going to add a green. All right, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a grouping out of these two, and then make a grouping out of these two. And actually I'm going to use yellow in each one of them. So I need 18 cuts of this yellow at 13 inches. And then I need 9 of this set and 9 of this set. But I need 18 of these because we're using them in both ribbons. Ribbon bundles, I should say. Okay, so let's start with this one. Now I cut my ribbon tails to 13 inches. So I just have a measuring tool here. I open it up to 13 inches. You can use cardboard, you can roll it, and just measure it here and cut it, whatever you need to do. Let me just grab this spool here real quick. Okay, so now remember I just need, and actually I don't need 9 of these. I'm going to only do 8 of them. The reason is I don't put tails on 2 of the ties on the top because that's where I put my bow. So I need 8 of these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so just to explain that further, there are 18 ties, but I really only put tails in 16 of them. 10 on the bottom. Okay, and 6 on the top. And the 2 that don't have tails on them on the top, I put my bow in that area. No sense in covering up tails with a big bow. Ooh. Okay, now we've got these cut at 13 inches. Now let's dovetail them. The way that you dovetail is you bend the ribbon in half. You have the folded side. Let's move these aside. And we're just going to cut from the fold out to the point on an angle. And it forms a dovetail. All right, now this wire is extra strong on this one, this particular ribbon. So I'm going to try to do a bunch of 2 of them real quick together. Again, just cut from the fold to the point on the outside. Fold them. Normally I can cut 4 ribbons at a time, but the wire in this is very thick. So if I was trying to cut through 8 wires at the same time, I think I would do some damage here. Okay, last couple of them. Last one. Okay, so that's one color done. I'm going to cut the remaining ribbons, again at 13 inches. I'm going to do 8 of this set, 8 of this, and 16 of this, and I'll come right back to you. Back now, and I have all of my ribbon tails cut. I'm going to just take and layer them. I'm going to put the pink on top of the green, and then the yellow on top of that. I'm going to fold it in half, just so that I can find the middle of these ribbons. And I'm going to scrunch right up the middle on that crease that I've just made. Okay, just scrunch it up. Okay, push out the divots. And then I open my ties. I just untwist it. Then I put this packet completely in there, push down, and give it a good several twists because we're done opening that up for now. Well, for the whole thing. Now just separate your ribbons however you want. I'm going to put the yellow in between the pink and the green. So my ribbon combination will be pink, yellow, green. Pink, yellow, green. Can you see how that? Can you see that? Let's see if I get that up there. Okay. Now, of course, my wreath frame is knocked over my stack of ribbons. Let me grab one that fell. Now let's do the orange packet the same way we did that one. We're going to do the butterflies. Now these butterflies, this is a directional ribbon, meaning that there is one way, the correct, one way that ribbon is. It's an upward motion. So as far as the ribbon or the tails go, you don't have to worry about which way the butterflies in this case are flying because there's no way really to put the ribbon in where they're both flying up unless you cut this in half and then put them in, which is way too much work. So when you're using directional ribbon on ribbon tails, just be consistent. If all your butterflies are going this way, add the ribbon that way in every single point and you will be just fine, okay? Just stay consistent. So here we're going to add a yellow to this packet as well. I'm going to fold it in half just to get the center, scrunch up the middle. Okay, let's open our ties. You do not have to open your ties like I do. You do what you want. I just like to be able to get those ribbons down as far as I can into that tight area there. Okay, now I'm going to do the butterfly first and the yellow in between, just like that. So I'll pull the butterfly down, the orange up on this side, and then the yellow will stay in the middle of those two. All right, so I don't know if you could hear my dog. He was laying next to me and he just sighed like, oh, boring. At least he's not barking, I guess. Can't complain. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this around a little bit so you can see how the orange turned out. See how the butterflies, I spread it like that. Okay, so just continue doing that on all of the ribbon ties on the bottom. I'm gonna go off camera and do that. I'll come right back when I've got the bottom row done and we can work on the top row together. My ribbon tails on the bottom row. Excuse me, let's do the top row. All right, we're going to take our green and pink package, line it up, put the yellow on top, fold it up the middle, and then open it up. Scrunch right up that middle. Okay. Now, open up the tie. If you're going to open them, push it down. Give it a good twist. We're all done adding stuff, and then just separate them. Do the same with the orange packet. It's got the butterfly ribbon, the race ribbon, and a little yellow in there. Just give it a quick pinch there so we know where the middle is. And then scrunch up. Down to that little groove, twist away, and then separate. I like to just give my ribbons a little bit of an arch so that they arch over and down. Okay. Now remember, on the top, I only have 6 packets of ribbon instead of 8. Only because I like to have a bow zone. And I'll show you what that means. It's just, why put tails underneath the bow? I make really large bows, multiple ribbon bows. So they take up a lot of real estate on your wreath. And I just think it's a waste of time and product to stick something under there that you're not going to see, and which in 9 times out of 10 causes you trouble because the tails are poking out of the ribbon, the bows, and just add a lot of confusion to that one area. So anyway, that's my thought process on that. But if you, again, you are your own designer. Do whatever you feel. If you're watching another designer and they put bows on, ribbon tails on all of them, and that's what the look you like, oh, please, do what makes you happy. That's the important thing. I know that I come in to do a wreath, and I just find total peace in playing with ribbons and doing this. So, and I've watched a lot of designers, and I've kind of just morphed how they do it into my own. I've taken the things that I like from some designers, combined it with what I like from other designers, throw in some original ideas here and there, and that's what I come up with, how my wreaths are created. But you do, this community, this wreath making community is a wonderful community. Everybody shares their ideas and are so willing to help other people. It's truly a wonderful community. Okay. One more set for each color, and we're done with our ribbon tails. It's starting to get dark where I am working. As soon as I'm done with this ribbon tail, I'll turn on some additional lights since I no longer have the light from outside to help me. Sometimes you have to be really kind of forceful with your ribbons. Don't be afraid to do that. Okay, we have one more packet of orange and we are done with ribbon tails. There we go. All done. You can see that this is the area that my bow is going to go into because there are no ribbon tails on these two ties. Okay, so let's make our bow. Okay, now that we have the ribbon tails in, it's time to make the bow. But before we do, we have to decide on where we're going to put our little bunny. And I'm thinking that if I keep the bow zone down in this area, kind of like 4 or 5 o'clock, if this were a clock and this was 12 and 6, 4 and 5, put the bunny up around here, the bow here, and then fill in with some florals. I have some florals here and some other ones over on the side. We'll get to that shortly after we make our bow. So let's move everything aside and start the bow. Now in this wreath we have that bright pink, we have the orange, and believe me, orange and pink are a great combination, very popular this year. So I have pulled in some additional ribbons, additional to the ones that came in the kit. I'm going to start with this 4-inch ribbon, and I like to make a really big bow, which is why I don't put two ribbon tailed packets on those two. Okay, now let's start with a pipe cleaner for the bow. And all I'm doing is, again, I like to use longer pipe cleaners. I just don't have any handy. So I'm just tying these two together to give me a longer pipe cleaner. Longer is a little bit easier to fish through the mesh that's on the wreath. Okay, so I put that between the two middle pegs and then build the bow on top of it. Now this ribbon is double-sided. It's pink and orange, and then it has the orange on the back. So I will probably roll this end up a little bit more. So let's make about a 12-inch tail. Maybe a little bit more so I have more room to roll. Okay. Put your ribbon in between the pegs, and then you're going to twist. And I twist, bring one hand one direction and then the other direction. All right, and the reason you twist is, again, you want to always have the correct side of the ribbon coming over on top of the bow. Now I'll show you. If we didn't twist, when we brought this ribbon over, it would be the orange side. Now maybe you'd like that, but and some bows would do that, but we still need to twist. And I'm starting out with about a 7.5 inch loop here. Okay, now once we finish our second loop here, we're not going to need to twist because we're all done with loops. And we just compress it down into the, this loop is just a little big. There we go. There we go. Then cut it off. Always leave, when you're going to plan on rolling the edge over, you want to leave slightly longer tail than you normally would. My tails are a little bit shorter when they're on the top of the bow. Okay, that's our first ribbon. All right, now we have the pink and the green from our tails. I think I'll start with the green. And when we're making a bow, we're basically making X's with the tails and the loops of the bow. So since I started down here on the first ribbon, I'm going to start up at the top on the second ribbon. Give it a twist. And this loop is going to be slightly smaller than the first one. Okay, we twist it again. Put it in, measure this loop, and then just compress it. Okay, so their loops are the same. Come down about the same, a little bit shorter, and then dovetail it. All right. Let's take this ribbon off the spool. And now let's use the pink one that came with the kit. Okay, we're going to start down here at the bottom. Let's dovetail it. Okay, give it a twist. Push it down on top. And then let's make our loops. And I'm going to keep these loops just about the same size as the green ones. Don't want the bow to go too. Now we're going to just compress this one. Okay. With the next set of ribbons, we'll probably start making the loops a little bit smaller. I wanted I wanted the bow to fill in a bigger space because our sign, the bunny sign, is kind of small. Okay, so you can see we're just still making X's with the loops and the tails. All right. All right. Now we have this is an interesting orange ribbon that I want to just add one strip through. I'm not going to make loops or tails, but I do want, you can see that it kind of changes colors from the pink to the orange to kind of a purpley light pink. And I thought that would be just a nice addition just in the middle. So I'm going to leave a little bit of room so we can roll this up, but I'm just going to put it in the middle without twisting, just compressing that ribbon down and cutting. That's just going to give us just some interest in the middle of our bow without adding another loop. Okay. Now, let's continue with the ribbons that came with the kit. Next one is we're gonna use the butterfly ribbon. And this, excuse me, the orange ribbon that we just added to this one kind of will actually accent this ribbon. Now, this is a directional ribbon, all right? We should be starting up at the top, but because of the direction, we want the butterflies to be flying in the right direction. So I'm going to show you the trick that you do to make that all come to. First thing is, we should be starting up here. And normally when we start up here, we end up down here. So let's put our ending tail in first. Okay, still twist it, just like normal. We're just building this a little bit backwards, all right? Turn it around so that the right side of the ribbon comes through. And see how this is going to lay on this one, and just, it's going to really make it pop a little bit. All right, so now we twisted it. We're making our last loop. Now we're just going to compress it. We don't need to twist anymore. We're done with loops. And then we're going to cut it and dovetail it. And there you go. Now we still have, you'll see the butterflies are upright on this tail and this tail, which is what we wanted. And now we have butterflies flying in different directions here. So all you need to do is take this complete tail or loop and give it a real hard twist. And now your butterflies are all flying in the same direction. Actually, I'm going to twist the other one instead, because this loop actually comes down in the X formation, and then this one is the one that goes up. So let's just twist this one completely. There we go. We've continued the Xing, the pattern of X's, and now all of the butterflies are flying in the same direction. Okay. As soon as we get our next ribbon on here, it will hold this one in place. Okay, and I dovetailed both sides. All right. Now we have these two ribbons left from the kit. And I'm feeling like we might want to bring in a pink to the top. We have a dark pink here, and we have a lot of dark pink in the ribbon, in the mesh and the twist ties of the wreath frame. So let's just add a quick loop with this color to bring the dark pink up to the top of the bow as well. Now for this one, we really we started up here. Even though we built it this way, our X technically started up there. So we're going to start down here, put a tail in, and then twist again. Now this loop we just need to compress and then cut. But you'll see now that the pink, the darker pink is coming forward in the bow, or up from the bottom to the top, by simply adding this little loop here. Okay, now we can continue with the last two remaining ribbons that were in our tails. Start with the orange. The orange race pattern. Twist it. Now, if you don't like this many ribbons in your bow, you can simply make a bow out of the ribbons that came in the kit. That'll make a very nice bow. You probably would want to add, just instead of 1 or 2 loops per ribbon, you might want to do four loops, just to give the bow some weight if you're using less ribbons. The reason I use more ribbons like this is I just like to get all the colors in. There we go. And if I weren't using this many different ribbons, I surely would make more loops out of the same ribbon. Again, just to give your bow some weight. Okay, and this will be our last ribbon. We're starting down here. Okay, make a loop slightly smaller. And we're going to twist this one because I'm going to put in a little loop here around the top peg so that when I put my my zip tie through to tie this bow, this little loop will hide that zip tie. Okay, let's dovetail this, and then we'll pull this bow off of the... Okay, and I have this zip tie here. I'm going to slide it underneath all of the ribbons and making sure also that it's underneath this pipe cleaner, the pipe cleaner that we originally started with, okay? By doing that, we're making sure that that pipe cleaner comes into the bow and actually is part of the bow. All right, now, when you bring it up, make sure you go through this loop and then pull it. Give it some tension. All right, and I always start the tension before I lift the bow, just so that my hands don't have to do that work. And I keep the bow in the bow maker for as long as I possibly can. Okay, now, I actually missed part of the loop, so give me 1 second. I have to get another pipe cleaner. Nothing is wrong. I just need to put one more pipe cleaner in because I missed part of the loop that this should have gone through. It needs to go through this side of the loop to catch this last one. There we go. Get this last ribbon in there. So I'm just going to put this one on, the new one on, and then I'll cut the old one before I pull this one tight, just so that old one doesn't get all caught up in this. Okay, so let me get rid of this, the first one. And all we need to do is just snip that first one off. Take it out of the way. All right, now back to where we were. Make sure everything is caught in that. And now I'm just going to move that zip tie into, I'm going to tighten it a little bit before I pull it off. And when I pull it off, you'll see that there's a groove right here that's created by those pegs. And I'm just going to make sure my zip tie stays in that groove as I pull it tight. Okay, and the tighter you get it, the fluffier your loops are going to be. All right, so let's cut it off and let's fluff our bow. I want to just get a few things out of the way so we don't have those ribbons. And let's get these into the garbage, these ends. All right. So how we fluff the bow is we start, we know that this is the side with the long tail. I'm going to hold that tail and just pull that loop, the associated loop with that tail. Okay, now I'm going to take the next one, which was our green. The loop is over here and the tail's up here. So all I'm going to do is just pull them in opposite directions for now. The pink is the next one, so I'm just going to pull the loop and the tail in opposite directions. Then the butterfly, we're going to leave this one where it is. That's just pretty much for decoration. We're going to pull the butterfly and the loop and tail one way. I'm going to pull the pink one opposite, pull the orange opposite directions, and then just keep this yellow one going straight across. All right? So now our loops will lay out, they'll fan out, our tails are all going to go up, either up and down, up I should say, or they're going to come down. And we want to just be able to see each color of the loop, so we just take our time and give them life, give each loop life, and make sure it's got a little window to be seen, okay? We'll work on this tail and these tails at the end of this. Then let's do this same process to the other side. We're going to pull this big one, the starting loop, all the way down as we pull that tail up. All right, the green is next. Tail and loop go in opposite directions. The pink polka dot is next. Tail and loop go in opposite directions. We're going to leave this one where it is. Next one is the butterfly. Okay. And then we have the pink, the orange race ribbon, and finally the yellow. Okay. So let's just, again, fluff out the loops, give them life. Make sure they all have a place to be seen. All right. Now these tails, when we put it into the wreath, we may end up cutting some of these longer tails. I like to just wait till I see what I need. And now I'm just fluffing these up. Okay, now let's work on these quickly, on these specialty tails. I'm just going to take and roll this one. All right, because the back is so pretty and decorative and is part of our color scheme, by rolling it up, it gives us a little bit of dimension, something unique. And there we go. We'll do the same to the top. Just going to roll it a little bit. This wire on this ribbon is so thick, it holds it very nicely, the roll. We're going to do the same with this one. These two, we're going to roll them. Actually, the back is not that, it's kind of a muted color. So I'm going to just dovetail these. Because there's really no advantage to rolling it. It doesn't bring in any additional color. So in this case, I'm just going to dovetail these like the other ribbons. It still adds the pop of color, that orange and pink kind of ombre look. I think it adds a lot to that ribbon. And there we go. Our bow is done. And we'll wait to trim up these ends if we need them after we put it in the wreath. All right? So, now before I put my bow into the wreath, I'm going to first attach the bunny in the position that I want it in. And then I'm going to create two bunches of flowers. Okay, and we're going to attach those flowers down here in the bow zone, underneath the bow. We're going to use these ties that don't have the tails in them. We're going to use those ties to hold our flowers in place. Then we're going to put the bow over the whole thing and we'll be done with the wreath. So the first thing is, let's get the bunny here. I kind of want her more up into this quadrant so that the bow is here, and then we'll have florals coming out of the bow from here and here. Okay, so let's take and put her in. We fish this wire through, this pipe cleaner through the mesh, and we have to always remember to get to straddle before we tie off this pipe cleaner. We want to straddle the rail of the wreath frame. Okay, that gives our attachment stability within the wreath. So if I'm just pulling these, fishing these through, keeping my ribbons, my tails there. Okay. And as I tighten it, I want to caution you to be careful not to pull it too tight. Kind of stop when you get tension on it. And the reason for that is you don't want your attachment or your sign to sink into your mesh. You want it to kind of stay on top of it if it can. So there we go. Just going to twist it a couple of times. Make sure that it's where I want it to be when I'm done. Okay, let's go up to the top one. Do the same thing here. Fish it through and make sure that you get a pipe cleaner around the wire frame of the wreath frame. When I'm done with this, I'll turn it over and show you. I'm just going to separate these tails a little bit so I can put my pipe cleaner through them. And when I fluff them up, the pipe cleaner will disappear. All right. There we go. Let's do our last one here. Alrighty. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to flip it over real quick and show you. See how each one of the pipe cleaners comes around that railing. All right, that's all you need to do is, once it's around that railing, you've got your wreath attachment is very stable. Now all I do is just take, I never really cut these off, only because till my wreath is done, I'm not sure if this bunny is going to stay exactly where I want it. You know, I may change my mind. So if I cut these off, then of course I won't be able to reattach my bunny if I choose to change its position. So this way, if I just kind of tuck them in, wrap them around, they're out of the way. That's all that's important, and can't see them. All right. There we go. Just a few more twists, and then just push it into the mesh. There you go. Okay. So we just need to kind of readjust these. I should have a pink one. There he is. Readjust them a little bit. And we will spend hours adjusting these tails, so we don't need to do it right now. I just want to make sure I touch them, make sure that they're laying nicely, so I can move on to the next part of the decoration of this wreath, and that is that I'm going to, there we go. Now we have them all. Okay. I'm going to construct a swag of flowers, and I'm going to attach it right here. And then what I thought I'd do is maybe put a butterfly right on the tip of this. I have a little butterfly. I thought it would be a cute tie-in to the ribbon that we're using. Okay, so our next thing is that we're going to make swags out of these flowers. And they're not going to look like this. I'm going to break them up, obviously. But I wanted to just show you that this is the area that we're going to put the flowers in. We're going to use the two ties here. All right. And then we'll put the bow over it, so everything will be covered up by the bow. All of the workings of that will be covered up by the bow. The only thing that I need to do is I'm going to turn on my hot glue gun, because once I get the flowers anchored in the wreath using the ties, I'm going to add some glue to it, just again to add stability to it and keep it from shifting or moving within the wreath. It's kind of just something extra that I do, but anytime you add things to your wreath, and like in my case, I sell a lot of, I go to a lot of craft shows, and the last thing I want is my wreath to fall apart when I go to sell it. Okay, so let's work on that swag of flowers. All right. I'm going to show you quickly what I have. These are just 3 flowers that I have left over. I have these. I may not use all of them, but these are the flowers that I have in the color scheme that we're using. I have some greenery. I have some other greenery from past projects that I can simply add in there. And then I have these little white flowers and some 60919, the magic of 60919. So what I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with the 60919. And when I say a swag, it's like two-headed, two sides. Let's get this plastic off so it doesn't make a terrible sound. Sorry about that. All right. All right. Now this 60919 has 3 pieces in it, and I'm just going to break up 3 pieces. And we might get away with just 3 of those pieces. I won't touch this 60919 until I know for sure. All right. And what we need is, we're going to start with our greenery down here. This is actually just leaves left from a greenery bush that I used. I cut the flowers out, didn't need the greenery, but this is still perfect greenery for what we need to do. I'm going to just take and bend some of these leaves down, and some of them I'll keep up. They're just forming pretty much the basis, or just giving us a little backdrop on which to build our swag. So you see what I got some going up and some going down. They're not exactly matchy-matchy. That's not a problem at all. Let's see, 3 and 3. Okay, and I'm going to cut this longer stem off. We don't need to see that. Okay, let's get this out of the way so we can show you comfortably. Okay, so you see how this is? 3 up and 3 down. Try to get that longer one in the middle just by moving these around. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to take my next longest flower, is these orange ones. I'm going to take all 3 of them off the stem at their longest point. Okay. And I'm going to put 2 of them upwards, kind of stagger them, and then 1 down. Okay, and you can see that we still have this common area right here. That's where our bow is going to go once this is completed. All right, now the next thing I want to do is I want to add some of the white flowers. And let's cut off the tag. Sorry, that's proving to be a more difficult job than the whole thing. Okay, now we have 4 on this one. So I'm going to cut off this long stem and see if I can reach these by bending it, just like I did with the greenery. See if I can get them. The only reason I'm trying to do this, just to keep it together a little bit more. Let's see. you know, without having 16 different stems in the middle, at least this way. Okay, and see how they kind of, one is longer than the other. Just give it a little bend so it comes forward. Okay. That's the beauty of these the florals that we use these days. They've got everything is always wired, and it's very easy to manipulate and move to, you know, if you need to turn the buds around so that they're facing forwards, turn the leaves backwards. It's all very easy to do with the way that they're created these flowers now being all wired. Okay, now I'm not sure that we even need this greenery. I think we have pretty much already built in up here as well as down here. So we do definitely want to include this 60919. All right, and what you do with this is you just open it up, and this gives you berries and little buds and different ferns. Okay, it's a great filler flower, and you can see how it pretty much filled up that whole spot there. So let's do it with the other one for the top. Again, just open it all up, making sure to spread it as wide as you can so that it takes up as much room as it does while giving us different textures and things like that. It's a very delicate but worthwhile, and everybody pretty much, when you say 60919, people know what you're using. Okay, this is the last one. I'm going to cut this twiggy part of it out. It's a nice element in some wreaths, but I don't think it has much use in our wreath here. Okay. Now this one I may just save and add it to the wreath itself instead of trying to put it in this bundle. I definitely will use it, but I'm not going to use it right now. Okay? I've opted against these. Don't need those because we have enough greenery already. So now let's work on these flowers. I don't want too much more orange, only because we have orange already. I definitely want this pink, and I definitely want that limey green. Okay? So here again, we're going to just cut the stems off. Let's count them real quick. That's 3, 7 stems. Okay. Let's try to get around as long as we can. Let's get these stems cut off. Okay. The only problem with this bush is that the stems are not very long. So we are going to have to MacGyver this into this. We may find also that it's easier just to glue these into the wreath as opposed to trying to include them in the bunching. But I'm going to try to see what I can do here. I think the first thing before I add any of these is I'm going to zip tie this as it sits right now, so that we don't lose this formation. And all you have to do is just run the zip tie underneath all of these stems and pull it tight. And there we go. Do you see how our swag is now? All right. So let's take these. Oh, I did manage to get this one in there, which is fine. That'll work. All right. But I'm gonna hold off and put these in after I get this all established in the wreath. Okay. So let's pull our wreath back. Then we can put our bow on. Alrighty. Here we go. Again, this is the area that we have note tails or ribbon tails in. So I'm going to push this bend this a little bit to go the direction of the wreath. Alrighty, kind of curl around the bunny bottom. Alright, now I'm going to just push this down into the wreath. Alright, and use that tie to really give it a good twist. Okay, we do the same thing with this tie here. It's up a little further. I'm just going to separate and catch some of our stems with this tie up here. And all I'm doing is fishing that tie through the middle of everything. And like I said, I'm just grabbing a few of the stems. And this, believe it or not, will give it the stability it needs. Okay, there we go. Okay. And we just move the flowers where we need them to be. Okay. Get that leaf out of the way because I want to see the buds of the white flower. Okay. So. Alrighty. Now let's put our bow in. And the bow is going to cover up all of this. Actually, right before we do that, I'm just going to put a squirt of glue on this tie here. Melt that plastic around the stems of the wreath for some extra stability. Alrighty. Now let's put our bow on. I'm going to be very careful not to touch that glob of glue I just put in there with my hands. I don't mind if the bow hits it, because that'll hold the bow in place, but I definitely don't want to touch it with my hands. I guess that would be a what not to do when putting the bow in. There we go. Now, again, as with the sign, we want to straddle one of the rails of the wreath frame, twist it up. And there we go. Okay, now just take your time. Fix all of the... Excuse me, my chair is voicing its opinion. Okay, now just take your time and move the loops and tails of the bow where you want it to go. And I like to have a few things overlapping the sign, makes it the sign part of everything, pulls it together. Okay, this is a little long for my liking. I'm going to just trim it up. There we go. Let's even this side out. Okay. Okay, now these 3 2.5-inch ribbons, I'm just going to trim up everything just a little bit. And remember I said sometimes once you get your project put together, you end up making some adjustments. No problem at all. You just don't know what it's going to look like until you're at this point. These dots are painted on there, so it gives me a little bit of a difficult time folding it in half. There we go. Okay, last one. Let's cut it up a little bit higher. we go. There's the green bow loop, butterfly loop, and then this tail hangs down a little bit. Okay, now let's put in those additional flowers. I think it'll look great if we put them in. And when you do put them in, you don't want them all to be the same, facing the same way, meaning, you know, give them a little bend when you put it in. So I'm just going to, I need my glue. One more stick of glue for this gun. All right, I'm just going to put glue on the end. Just a little glue. And then just tuck it in wherever you want these flowers to be. Okay, remember we have 7 flowers. I've used 3 up here after I tuck this one in. There we go. This one's a little bit short, so I'm going to use the 4th one up here at the top. Let me double check. Yeah, I'll put 3 on the bottom, and then I'll decide on that 4th pink one where it should go. We do want to use some of the green. And see, all I'm doing is when I tuck this flower in with the glue, I'm making sure that it touches some part of the wreath frame. Remember these ties? When I'm lifting the bow up and tucking these in, I'm actually tucking them onto something that's very stable within the wreath. Okay, I'm not just gluing it to the ribbon or the mesh. That hot glue is really going to melt that. We have one more pink one. But it really melts the plastic or whatever this material is. It is plastic, but when hot glue hits this, they all melt and hold that flower in place. So that's what I'm trying to hit when I'm putting these flowers in. Now I'm not going to use too many of these. Maybe I work in 3s, so maybe let's start with 3 and see how we can spread them out and see. We may need to put a 4th one in, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. But let's just see how they spread out. We just want it a little longer than that last. Give it some length to that wreath. Really, all you're doing is just finding a spot that makes your eye, let me make sure, there we go, helps your eye move through this. Of course, I trimmed off one with the tag on it. Let's see if I can do this a little bit more efficiently for you this time. How about it? Okay, so we have a green one here. Let's see what a green one over here looks like. We don't want it the same length as the pink, so let's try to pull it out a little, or maybe tuck it in down lower. But you get the idea now. You just, when you break them apart, you have the ability to put them where you want. I'm just kind of giving this a dry run to see if I like it, the look down here, or if I have too much green in that one area. How about if I put it here? That's where we found a home for it. here with the white flowers and down through. There we go. Catch that. Catch that little tie there. Okay, let's just add two real quick up at the top. If you would rather use, instead of a glue gun, you can certainly use a glue pot. I just didn't turn mine on in time, and I didn't want to extend this video too much longer. I just wanted to show you, give you some ideas on how to enhance a wreath. But you know, again, this is all up to you. You do not have to do all this if you're not interested in, because the wreath kit as is a beautiful wreath. It makes an absolutely gorgeous wreath, very vibrant. Carrie picked some beautiful colors for this wreath. And there you go. I do have a pink one though, and I've cut it off, so I hate to I just don't want to lose this one. I think I'll just tuck it in down there. That way I'm not losing it. There we go. Okay, so let me clear this away so you get a better look at the finished product. Alrighty, hope this clears the way for you. And there you have our wreath. It's called the Chocolate Bunny Wreath. Oh, I'm sorry. One more quick thing. Let me see. I did talk to you about possibly putting a butterfly on it. And if I were a butterfly, oh, here they are. I do have one yellow butterfly. One looks a little abused, so I'm going to get the one that's next to it. I'll probably tuck that butterfly somewhere in, but a little bit more into the flowers. This one I kind of want just to be up by his nose, the bunny's nose. So, how does that look? Okay, so let me put a little bit of glue on it and stick it to the tip of that flower. It's very close to that little bunny's nose. Okay. There we go. This one can maybe go in the center here. Yeah. I'll just tuck this one in real quick. And there you go. That wreath is done. As always, I appreciate you spending your time with me. I love doing this, and I hope I've inspired you. Thank you again, and have a great day.